The Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele has said the country spends almost 40% of its scarce foreign exchange on importation of petroleum products as well as petrochemicals. This puts a lot of pressure on the naira.
Nigeria right now, out of what we spend, FX we spend on imported items, importation of petroleum products consumes close to about 30%. By the time you take diesel, petrol, aviation fuel, and the rest of them, 30%, Dangote Refinery will be producing, has a capacity to produce 650,000 barrels per day, or convert that from crude to refined products. There is a domestic component that is called 455, right? 455,000 barrels. Yeah? Yeah, 445. Or 445,000 barrels.
450,000.
Yeah. Even if out of the 650,000, the 445 or 455 is what is sold to Dangote in naira, it is going to be a major FX savings for Nigeria.
All right, here in Nigeria, Enugu State has pledged to improve budget allocation on programs that will enhance the growth and development of the youth in the state. The state commissioner gave the assurance in Enugu during a public hearing on the program on enhancing youth participation for sustainable development. Well, joining us to discuss these headlines is Gospel Obele, who is an economist. Gospel, good morning to you. I guess let's start with the central bank governor. And what do you make of his comments on, how much FX goes to petrol imports?
Yeah, good morning, Rotus, and thank you for having me. Yes, listening to the CBN governor, that sounds like a short-term win, but in view of sustainability and the medium term, it's still not a win in the sense, because it just tells us that all eggs are still in one basket. A sustainable solution will be looking towards diverting organizing the non-oil exports markets, all right, to ensure that we improve foreign exchange earnings, and also to also encourage more players in the private refinery space, so as to decentralize that market from a competitive angle perspective. Until we can do that, either of the two streams, we may not be able to think of sustainability in the medium term. However, it makes sense in terms of quick fix solutions, but it's not still sustainable.
Isn't there a case to be made here to end fuel subsidies, considering how much is smuggled out of the country because of arbitrage with the price? What do you make of it?
Yes, technically it makes sense to end subsidies, but are we ready for the market interplay between the demand and forces of supply in terms of fuel price and all that? I don't think that Nigeria and Nigerians are ready. What I would probably want to advise would be a phased exit of the fuel subsidy program, in the sense, because an outright removal would literally lead to chaos. Don't forget that an increase in the price affects every other thing else, including consumer spending and disposable income. So any form of outright removal of that subsidy will lead to more chaos, which we're already in. All right, looking at it from the fiscal policy side, haven't managed structural and institutional deficit properly in that supply side market.
Even if with your solution of a phased withdrawal, is the political will there to end fuel subsidies with the 2023 elections so close?
And that might not be on the table anytime soon. If you look at it from that angle, which also has informed probably one of the reasons why subsidy have not been removed over the years. All right, so it's just pathetic in its way, and the current structure of things is likely to destruct the currency further than now, and it's going to be a lot more tougher for the average Nigerian in the coming months.
The CBN governor said the country will be in a better position to possibly float the naira after the Dangote Refinery comes on stream. Well, what do you make of that possibility?
So that still speaks to the fact that we are not looking at the big issue in the room. The big issue in the room is that there's a supply side issue, all right, supply of FX issue. Even if Dangote refinery starts tomorrow, there's still a fundamental supply side issue. All right, so a sustainable solution would be to break, all right, and ensure that non-oil exports or SMEs in non-oil space can have access to market for exports and all of that. I don't think a single player in the refinery space will help. It's enough to help us float the currency or the exchange rate in that order. I think that the supply side is not strong enough to match up with demand, and that may lead to a lot of chaos in the midterm.
All right, let's move to Enugu State. The state government has pledged to improve budgetary allocation on programs that will enhance the growth and development of youth in the state. Is this, a little late in the game to be making this announcement? What do you make of it?
From a surface level, it's not too late to begin to lead social correction in the sense, but from a broader level, it sounds like just political correct statements, in my opinion. There are deeper cultural nuances and complexities to youth engagement, not just in the regions, across border, right? At the moment, youth unemployment in Enugu stands at almost 31%. So there has to be a more rigorous approach to the engagement, not just setting up hubs and expecting young people to come on board. Design is critical, and ensuring that the program is way ahead, practically way ahead, all right, of cultural nuances to engage youth in the region. There are many other private sector institutions or OPS institutions who have started youth engagement initiatives in the region, and it hasn't yielded a lot of results in that order. So a lot more intense work has to go into mapping the cultural nuances and engaging these youths properly from a design angle. Otherwise, it should just be one of those politically correct statements ahead of 2023.
Thanks for that. How high of a priority is youth development in Nigeria? How would you gauge it based on, I guess, what we've seen so far?
I think it's still very low. It's still very low, and that's because there is a huge gap between what we think the problem is and what the problem really is. And that's to a large extent the research gap in mapping the skills, mapping the cultural nuances, mapping the persona around youth engagement. All right, there's a growing market for student entrepreneurs and all of that. Those conversations are not even factored into our youth policy designs and all of these things. So we need to think more closely. All right, youth unemployment in Nigeria right now stands at closely over 42%. Underemployment is another monster in the room. All right, there's a productivity issue around how we engage our youths and how we get more out of them. Youth migration is also on the rise. So we need to be much more holistic in our approach, as well as thinking in parts. All right, and finding solution in parts and tying it up into a holistic approach to dealing with this growing youth menace in this part of the world.
All right, and again, we're discussing this because this is an announcement that was made from the Enugu State government. Should actions speak louder than announcements when it comes to this matter, Gospel?
Yes, actions should, and that's because the reason why actions haven't is, like I mentioned earlier on, there's a first design issue, trying to understand what the real problem is as it pertains to your own context. All right, youth engagement solutions in Southeast should be different. All right, if you look at it from a context north perspective, from youth engagement in the north and in the southwest, and that's because there are different factors that have shaped what we currently have today as what we call a social problem of unemployment and all the case in that region. So it has to be holistic, as well as dealing with it from a regional standpoint, from a design issue first of all, before we begin to scale institutional strength and capacity to execute them appropriately, and to see the results we desire to see in the mid and short term, short and mid term.
Great stuff. Gospel Obele, economist, thank you so much for talking to us about FX supply and also youth engagement, youth employment in Africa's largest economy. Thank you so much for your insights.